Teddy Feinberg back at you with our weekly sports program. It's almost the end of the sports year. It is incredible that that's the case. There are still a couple weeks left. There are the state high school playoffs this week. They start this week. Aggie softball's in the WAC tournament this weekend, and Aggie baseball also. The WAC tournament's not for a couple weeks there. So we still have some things to get to. Leading off, however, we are going to talk Aggie basketball. There was some news on the program that came out yesterday. First things first, Marvin Menzies signs a 2-year extension with the school. Now, frankly, I don't see this as a huge deal, and here's why. First of all, now he's signed through 2019. It seems like light years away. He might as well be signed through 2040. I mean, and it's just 2019 seems like a long time away for me. I'll also remind people when Reggie Theus signed a big extension a handful of years ago, that did not stop him this past offseason, or that offseason, from going to the NBA. Not that I think Coach Menzies is necessarily going to go to the NBA level or take a new job this offseason. Just a reminder that these extensions don't always necessarily mean that it's a long binding agreement. I do think it reaffirms his commitment and the school's commitment to, both parties involved. They're both reaffirming their commitments to each other. I also think his name has been out there for some other jobs, and I think it's kind of the school's way of trying to kind of curtail that a little bit. I think it might kind of deaden any opportunities he might have this particular offseason. For instance, Oregon State just opened up recently. They got rid of their previous coach, but I think it could possibly kind of fan the flames on that a bit. I do think Coach Menzies being here is a positive thing. He has done some good things to this program. There's kind of a mixed reaction or a mixed bag to a degree, because I know some people want to see them advance farther in the NCAA tournament, but that will come if they keep going back. And I will remind people, it could always be worse. They don't necessarily need to be a postseason team. They have accomplished that over recent years. I think he has done a very good job recruiting to the program, and I think that's clearly him and his coaching staff strength, as they've really brought some quality talent here over the years. They've done it kind of outside the box thinking. They have gone internationally to Canada and to some other countries. But that's clearly been their bread and butter, and they continue to play in a very subpar conference. So I don't think NCAA tournament or postseason appearances are going to go anywhere anytime soon. I expect them to be back in that position this upcoming year. Now, they did lose Matej Bujovac. They announced his departure yesterday as well. He transfers to Sacred Heart. He would have been a junior. I think the initial reaction was kind of a whoa reaction. I was a little surprised. I did not see it coming. They need a shooter to replace Kevin Aronis, but again, they have a boatload of kids coming into the program this offseason. Again, I like the talent they brought in, so I think they can find a replacement for Matej, who I did think was a very skilled offensive player. I did like his game. At first, I did think it was a big loss, but after having some time to reflect on it, I actually think the Aggies can weather the storm in that respect as well. I do expect them to have a quality team next year that will win a WAC championship and be back in the NCAA tournament. Let's move on now. We're going to go to the state playoffs in high school. We have softball and baseball state championships opening up this particular weekend. Let's start out with softball. Oñate is hosting. They're a number 2 seed. They host number 15 Clovis. I expect them to advance. Oñate's had a very good year. I think they can challenge for a state championship. Whether or not they win is another story. You really start playing some elite teams in Albuquerque, so we'll see how far they get. Cruces High goes to Albuquerque Academy, they go to Albuquerque High. Cruces High is a number 9 seed. Albuquerque High is a number 8. Centennial has a home playoff game in 4A. They are a number 3 seed. I expect them to advance as well. In prep baseball, Mayfield is the lone home team. They are hosting Rio Grande. I think the Trojans will beat them. Trojans are a number 6. Rio Grande is a number 11. We have a handful of other teams going to Albuquerque. Cruces High is number 15, goes to El Dorado. Oñate as a number 12 goes to Rio Grande. Gadsden as a number 10 goes to Cleveland. Those are all going to be very difficult games. It's always tough to go to Albuquerque and win. Cruces High's been playing a lot better. I think Gadsden's a very tough and scrappy team. Oñate's kind of been on a downslide the last couple weeks. If any of those teams come back with a victory, I think that would be a real positive. Centennial goes up to Los Alamos, and again, that's going to be a stretch. That's in 4A. Centennial's a 10. Los Alamos is a number 7. I know, I have it all up here. This is unbelievable. It's a challenge trying to remember all this stuff on the fly like this. WAC tournament, Aggie Aggies softball's in the WAC tournament in Seattle. I expect them to win the WAC tournament. They are the top seed. They are clearly the most established program, the best program. I think if they did not win it, it would be a disappointment. They opened today as a number 3 seed, as the number 1 seed, as I alluded to earlier, and we'll see where they go. But I expect them to pull it off. Let's also talk NFL draft real quick. Obviously, first of all, I think it's an incredibly over-covered event. I cannot believe how much coverage is devoted to the NFL draft. My gosh, it just seems a little ridiculous to me. But I do follow the Aggies, obviously, with a lot of interest. I wrote a story this past weekend on 3 players who I think are going to at least get a look on a pro roster. I mentioned specifically Austin Franklin, who I think has a real shot at being a 6th or 7th round draft pick. Devontae Wallace, an offensive lineman who I think has a real chance of either being a 7th round draft pick or an undrafted free agent. And Trayshawn Nixon, who I think will be an undrafted free agent for sure. I think Franklin is the best NFL prospect. He obviously has gotten the most fanfare. But I really like Wallace and Nixon's chances a lot. Wallace is an El Paso kid, very mild-mannered guy, but he can come in, smart kid. I think he can play offensive guard in a couple years in the NFL, barring he gets a chance. And Trayshawn is really an under-the-radar guy. He can really run. He can really hit as an outside linebacker. I think he's interesting. And a dark horse, Cale Chapman-Brown, their punter, left-footed punter, stands at about 6'5", so he can get to bad snaps. Athletic guy, and he was a very productive player here. So I don't think he'll get signed immediately following the draft, but I think he'll get a camp. Again, I'm approaching the 7-minute mark. Thanks for sticking with me, assuming you did. And check me out at Teddy Feinberg on Twitter, the Cruces Sports blog, as always, for the latest and greatest. Follow me throughout the weekend on all the state playoff and NFL draft coverage, and we will see you soon. Thank you.